If you doubt it, take a bite. Is that just disgusting? You have to concede it. It's nothing but crusting. You drink this, you'll need it.
There are several major issues with this. And this is not going into how something was done, how certain characters was changed around. This is adaptations that basically shouldn't be going on. It shouldn't be going on at all because it just doesn't work. And you may put to the point and say, well, this is a big time director who's done many great films before. That doesn't mean it's going to be a good film. And this is what's been going on recently with Hollywood. And that's the same thing. Like I said, there are some shows that are getting rebooted, redone, however you want to put it, made for the modern era that have the original creators attached to them. Perfect examples, CW Babylon 5. Doesn't mean that basically it's going to end up properly respected. We have Firefly also being looked at by Disney. There's a lot of issues with that. But here, this is the one major thing that's been going on. And I've had discussions with this in chat rooms on Facebook and in a couple other places. But before we start, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share this video, hit that notification bell, switch it to all, and you'll get all of our notifications here on Q2Cast TV, Madman with the Show, and Saturday Pre-Flight. And most of all, be sure to check your subscriptions, because we've had some situations, and I just want to thank those who have subscribed. We're getting to that 500. We are pushing the front. I'll tell you, the war with YouTube that we're having right now is you, my viewers, have marched forward and are subscribing left and right now. We are getting those numbers up. You're beginning to watch one of my last videos. We are on the march to 1,000 on that video a couple of days ago at one of the fastest rates. We have another video out that on another social media platform, BitChute, that has done fantastic for the Saturday Pre-Flight show also as well. So we are getting the viewers because we are putting out product that you, the viewers, want to see here and are fighting to watch it every day, no matter whether it's my channel or anyone else's, whether it's a Nerdrotic, Heel versus Babyface, Timcast, Crowder. Doesn't matter who they are, what they believe in. We are fighting for the right for you, the viewers, to see what you want. Not for what Hollywood dictates to you. Not what the mainstream media news networks dictate to you. We're giving you the stories that are needed to be out there. We're giving the videos that are needed to be out there. And I thank you again for that. West Side Story. Steven Spielberg has just readapted this movie, which basically, from what you see from the mainstream media and from the reviews, they're just glorifying it. Oh, it's a beautiful movie. It's such fantastic. But yet, it falters. And you can see it from the box office because people did not want to see this. Now, according to the latest numbers that we've had, according to this, and it will probably change, and you'll see this on the bottom of the screen as we'll edit by Saturday afternoon, the numbers that we got from Friday was only 4.1 million, and that included the 800,000 that came in from Thursday. Now, this movie cost $100 million. Now, do I think this is going to make its money back? No, I really don't. Because in order for this movie to bank anything, you need to be about $250 million, about 300 million. Let's give it to about $350 million 350 because even though it's 100 million on there, but there are other costs, including advertisements, all this stuff that pops on here. Now, understand is that you didn't have any big stars on this. So you had a couple of good celebrities. You had Rita Moreno and a couple other celebrities on there, younger actors and actresses, which that's okay to have those on there because you want to show off on their case on there. But why did you need to readapt a musical that took place in the 1950s? You didn't need to do it. And why did you need to change one character who was a tomboy, which at the time period, tomboys were a different situation, to a transgender binary? There was no such thing as that then, or actually there's not now. I mean, you'll say to yourself, well, didn't men dress like women? Yeah, they did, but you didn't really give them that name, or you didn't consider them that way. How can I put this? There were girls who just wanted to play with boys, and not in a sexual way. They wanted to play the basketball. They wanted to rough house with boys. That's why they were called tomboys then. That was the 50s. That was a different time period. The other half of this is the way the movie was shot, the lens flare. I mean, is Steven Spielberg in a battle with lens flaring with J.J. Abrams and Spielberg? Are they going at on there? And the thing about it is they made it too clean. And that's the other problem. See, that was the other thing with that other movie that had came out that was a Latin movie done by the guy who did Hamilton. Too bright, too expected. This is a Romeo and Juliet story. And you look at most of the years with the Romeo and Juliet stories on the adaptations on that. Some people say that the DiCaprio one was one of the better ones for the era of when they started changing some of this stuff. And I say yes and no, and it had its issues also. We need to stop taking from the well and create new stories. We can't keep going back and grab another and another and another. And the other half of this is the musical, the classicals, the operetics. We've already seen what has happened in Hollywood with these musicals. People are not flocking to the theaters to watch these musicals. We've had several that have been out in the last decade or so. 2007, you had the Tim Burton version of Sweeney Todd, Stephen Sondheim. In fact, R.I.P. Stephen Sondheim. That's a movie with Johnny Depp, Helen Bonham Carter, Alan Rickman. That did about $153 million on a budget of $50 million. That basically didn't score right. That really didn't score. That didn't make money. That was a failure. Before we go on, you may tout toward Les Mis, which basically did make some good money on there, and I'll admit that to that situation, but it wasn't a good adaptation. Hugh Jackman, a fantastic actor, he does sing and stuff like that, and he's a good singer, but the adaptation wasn't good. The Broadway show itself was much better. The people and it's not only one particular troupe that did very well. You've had multiple troupes that has done Les Mis on stage fantastically. Look for the anniversary of that. The 25th anniversary of Les Mis. It is a fantastic concert. Now, taking to Mamma Mia, which was also a success. In the case of Mamma Mia, you might say, "Oh yeah, that's musical stuff." That would be what we call jukebox musical, and that basically most people will love to see. At the moment is all these jukebox stuff. That's what draws them in, and that in itself is a video in itself, and how insanely crazy that is. And we've seen that from anime movies that for kids they do the same thing as well. No original music. Here's a perfect example: Cats, 2019 Cats, based on one of the best Broadway shows of all time, listed in the top 10 of Broadway shows. Budget up to $100 million, only grossed 75 million. A massive failure. Massive. And this is the situation that goes on and on with a lot of these adaptations. And here's one of the biggest failures, and we got to go back to the 80s for this one. Another Broadway show that did fantastic, went to film version, and big director, big stars, and that's a Chorus Line. Chorus Line had a 25 million budget and only grossed $14 million. $14 million. I mean, I can go on and go through searches for you to many things that have been on, but this is not only toward a Broadway situation. It is also a point of view to classical music, to opera, to the arts in general. And the reason why we say this is because we look at Hollywood. Look at what Hollywood is putting out. Look at what's on Broadway right now. Look at the Broadway shows that are going on right now. A lot of the Broadway shows are either rehashes of old shows like Chicago, Wicked, Phantom of the Opera. And then you have the Disney stuff like Lion King and Aladdin. And then you have what we call the jukebox music stuff like Jagged Little Pill, the David Byrne's American Utopia. And then you have film adaptations like Harry Potter, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, Mrs. Doubtfire, To Kill a Mockingbird, and then you have the biographies, the Tina Turner, Michael Jackson. I mean, the only ones out there that are really, worth seeing sometimes are like the Book of Mormon, which happens to be original on there. And you may say, well, what about Diana? Diana's closing at the end of the year. Did we need that? Did we need that at all? I mean, you have to look at what is out there. There used to be a time, and living in New York City, I've seen some great Broadway shows. And we're not talking Broadway shows that basically you may have heard of, may have not heard of. See, there are little pockets here and there in New York City that have what we call off-Broadway. And I saw some stuff that was really good. Some of it was a little crazy hair wire. I've had friends take me in to see some stuff that, generally I wouldn't have bought a ticket if it wasn't that they didn't mention it. I mean, one perfect example is a show. I don't know if it's still running. I don't think it is. In fact, my friend was a technical advisor on this show. And it was called Adventures of the Caveman Robot. Yes, believe me, Google it. You will find this. Adventures of Caveman Robot, the musical. This was the stuff that you were looking at years ago. And it isn't running anymore. It ran in 2006 at the Brick Theater in Williamsburg. This was in Brooklyn. Talk about off-Broadway. This was in Brooklyn itself. And it was fun to go. It was really fun. The music was good. It was fun. Very small. This wasn't like a large stage. The stage was practically, you could stand up and walk less than a foot and you're on the stage. That's how close they were to the audience. And it was fun. It was fun to go. And that was Broadway. And there's still a lot of theaters on that. Around where my mother lives in one area, there is a Spanish theater that basically shows many different shows in Spanish, which that also, they're all variations and flamenco dancing and stuff like that. When I was in high school, I was taken to an off-Broadway show that dealt with flamenco dancing, and that was back in the 80s. These are the stuff that we're looking at. It is basically original stuff that are, that you wouldn't see, that are good. They don't get the airplay it was. Even though I mentioned, movies that basically are being used on here, but one that worked out very well and is still traveling and doesn't get that much credit, but still hauls in an audience is Evil Dead the musical. And you may say, well, it's a horror and all that, but yeah, we've had horrors before. If you've not seen Sweeney Todd, Sweeney Todd is a horror. It's a great, if anything, see the Angela Lansbury version of Sweeney Todd. It is beautifully done, beautifully done, and for a stage show. Now, I brought up classical and opera also for a reason, is because basically we've been seeing a decline at the Met, and we've seen rehashes of old operas, but they're modernizing them, and what I say, made for the modern era, but they don't really work for the modern era. Like I saw, I forgot which one it is, but they had, and I kid you not, they put this in the middle of Harlem, and I kid you not, there's a scene where they're sitting down on a stoop, talking about a banquet. They're like if they were at a banquet, but the banquet was they're eating McDonald's. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding on this. And I guess there's a line in the opera that they said that the pheasant is fantastic and all that, and he's holding up a chicken McNugget. How is that good? How is, I just, there are guys in this business that just literally, I mean, oh my God. One of the things is that, with Stephen Sondheim gone, a lot of other professionals in this business that have passed away in the last decade, you're seeing how the way the creative juices have just literally been squeezed completely, gone. They're just literally gone. And I have to bring up this Facebook post, and it's basically from a friend of mine who we've worked together for many years on the Rabbity Rabbit show. He's now working for a company he works for Adobe, and right now he got transferred to Copenhagen. Yes, that's right. He's living now with his family in Copenhagen, and he likes it. It's nice over there. But there is a post that he did, and a lot of people commented on it. I'm going to read a little bit of this post. And it was a concert for a young violinist, and it happened to be very good. And he says, and this was back in November, the audience for a classical music is dying, literally. Judging by the demographic of the folks attending last night's concert of DR Symphony, and please excuse me if I butcher this, Orchestrate here in Copenhagen. Within 10 years, there'll be nobody left to fill the seats. Upon entering the incredible modern piece of architecture that it is the DR Concertthurst, my kids both remark at how the place is filled with almost only elderly. And this is in Northern Europe, birthplace of the Western music. The DR Symphony Orchestrate was a magnificent in their rendering of Bruch Violin Concerto No. 1 and Mahler Symphony No. 1. The concerto soloist Maria Dueñas, a captivating 18-year-old virtuoso violinist from Spain, was absolutely enthralling and got a standing ovation and encore wholly deserved. I am not sure that this is the problem that can be fixed. My friends who still perform classical music, as I did for many years until I moved up here from San Francisco last year, as well as my friends who work in the administration end of symphonies, chamber music, ensembles, etc., have complained about the declining audiences for years. I am ashamed to say myself had attended a performance of a major orchestra since at least 10 years ago, and thus I guess I'm part of the problem. What can be done? Maybe nothing at this point. At very least, if you have the inclination and seeking out your local symphony orchestra, buy yourself a ticket, take the family and your friends with you. It might be very well be your last chance. Now, my friend here, Bob, went to School of the Performing Arts. And you know of it, you've heard of it from the movie Fame and all that. And many people that went with him worked with me on public access. And believe it or not, Sharon Sonny Bono's daughter went there too, because that's where I met her, working with Bob on one of his other shows that we did with public access together. And that's before the change. But basically, this is the situation that has been going on. Several of people that I worked with also chimed in on it. One of them and this was some of the people that we worked together on the Rabbit See Rabbit. And he says, one of them who works in the industry like me, I've been filming classical concerts for over 35 years now, and have unintentionally gone from the youngest member of the audience to about average age. And let me put it to perspective from my experience on here, and this is my comment on here. My wife, which folks, if I've told you, my wife is a mezzo soprano. She has said some of the opera productions have been rewritten for the modern era, which has been a mistake. The other is the education in school. The money that is being used for the arts is erasing past history. Can you name the last opera that was brilliantly performed to a sellout crowds, or the last original Broadway musical hit that wasn't a Disney property, or how many new composer, classical singers, or musicians that stood out of the worldwide in the last 15 years? COVID is not the problem to small crowd events. Our educators, PBS, and even our local officials are at fault. Music appreciation, history, and theory classes funding must be used properly to learn from the past, so the arts have a future, so we can have another Mozart, Beverly Sills, or even a Karen Tuttle. There are those teaching it out there, fighting to keep it alive, like in the borough of Staten Island. And I couldn't think a world without a La Boheme or the Ring de Nibelung. And that is perfectly to what is going on. The arts is not being well taught in the schools. We keep teaching this jukebox music and on that, and not enforcing creativity. There are young people out there, because we see it from, and like I mentioned, the borough of Staten Island, there are places like Snug Harbor. If you ever get a chance, if you're ever in New York City, do please visit Snug Harbor, because that is an art, a place where arts are still alive and well. There are those who are in that place teaching kids classical music. And we're not talking the stuff that you see in the mainstream today. We're talking the ones that are, back-driven. And it's something that Bob had also mentioned. Most of the kids know opera from Bugs Bunny, those who have seen the classic WB cartoons on there. I'm wondering how much of the Met and New York Phil are reaching out to the schools these days. For example, bringing them on school trips to watch real and non-pandering performances. And that is correct. Met prices have kept going up. Lincoln Center's always been going up. Even though they've had their discount days and stuff like that, it's still an issue in this business. And this is getting back to the West Side Story. Why do we need another West Side Story? Why do we need? Because they think that, they're trying to push activism into the Hollywood and musical part of the business. They're pushing now, says, oh, Oscar buzz, and this could win the Oscars and stuff like that. Is it good enough to win the Oscars? No, it is not. And this is nothing against the actors or actresses in this series or whoever wrote this. This is a rewrite of something that was here before, that basically people had cherished before. You don't change it. You don't redo it. You find something new. You find a new story and you put it together. I have other friends who are in this business that are all writing classical music for either the opera or for a philharmonic. This is constantly going on, but it needs to step up a notch. It really, truly does. I mean, if you can relate classical music to Star Wars, as a Star Wars fan, I love the soundtrack, but sit there and listen to the original scores of Les Mis, of Phantom. Listen to operas like La Boheme, Madame Butterfly, and many others out there. Or sit and listen to a philharmonic with maybe something from a Strauss or Bach or Beethoven. Because we need those type of classical music or the Broadway play again to be that way. Because I'll tell you this perspective, and I'll tell you this perspective that basically Broadway's going to die out. The Metropolitan Opera is going to die out. We can't let these places of artistic expression die. Because basically we need this. This is how, our culture grew. People throw out that basically like the racism and this and that and all bullshit, and don't realize what society has put forward.
After all, it's not that awful. But what the fellow said. In Italy, for 30 years under the Borgias, they had warfare, terror, murder, and bloodshed, but they produced Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and the Renaissance. In Switzerland, they had brotherly love. They had 500 years of democracy and peace, and what did that produce? The cuckoo clock. So long.
What we in the West have put on the map when it comes to the artistic expression. And it's the same thing with paintings. And same thing with writing novels. I mean, we already have something coming out now recently. Some feminist is going to do a reinterpretation of George Orwell's 1984. We don't need that. We don't need that at all. Leave 1984 alone. Because, when they do read adaptations made for the modern era, they're going to change things around. They're going to change it around to a lot of the things that are going on today, and we don't need that. You say, well, it's hard for kids to get to watch these things. Have you sat them down to do it? I, many times in high school, have been taken to events to watch this stuff. To watch classical opera, classical music. I grew up in a Catholic school system. And I know it used to be the New York public school system used to take kids to the operas. They used to take them to the museums. They don't do this anymore. And they say, well, it's because we don't have funding. No, it's because the funding is not going to the right places. Think to yourself, those of you who have children in the school system, think of the last time you signed paperwork to have kids go on a school trip, and I'm talking before COVID, to a school trip that took them to a museum or to an opera, to an off-Broadway show. And I'm not talking a Broadway show that Disney did. I'm talking about something classical, something informative that basically had some great music, that might have had some good dancing, and I'm not talking in a way that, all the like a Mamma Mia or something like that. I'm talking about, say, flamenco dancing or a ballet. When was the last time that your kids went to see a ballet? You say, well, the kids ain't going to like it. How do you know they're not going to like it? That's how you inspire people to do things. You have to teach them that this is what we have. This is the type of art expression. You may not become a ballerina or a composer or a musician to that nature, but you can be to the point where you might respect it, enjoy it, and may relax and listen to it every once in a while, as I did. Because I've been a classical fan for many years. I have many CDs on it. I have many original broadcasts of classical stuff. Like La Boheme is I always mention La Boheme. La Boheme is one of my favorites on there. And it was not because it was in Moonstruck. I long loved it before it was in the movie Moon, because it was fantastic. Because I had friends in the business. I had friends. I started out very early in the broadcast business. And, you got around and you saw these things. And like I said, my friend Bob, he was school in performing arts. And I'll tell you this. and I wish I had a copy of it. And maybe I'll contact him. Maybe he still has a copy. Me and him shot something for Juilliard a long time ago for the Juilliard anniversary, and this was back in the 80s. And it was showing behind the scenes where we shot. We went all over the school and shot some stuff that was basically students at basically in their classes, practicing, rehearsing for events, because there was a big event on PBS for the Juilliard anniversary, but they wanted a video to showcase the students, the people behind the scenes, the ones that are learning, that are up and coming, that are doing their best to get into this business, the artists, the people who make the stories or who basically perform the stories. And that's very important to you and to me. So when you hear someone criticize West Side Story, listen to what I said, and then take that and look at West Side Story from that perspective. And go back and watch the original. Unfortunately, because of the era that was in, we can't see the original Broadway show. I don't even think it is anywhere where you could see the Broadway show on film or on video. Because that was back, people didn't think of that. But they did think of stuff like Phantom of the Opera and Les Mis and even Sweeney Todd. And like I said, go see Sweeney Todd, on video. It's fantastic. It is the version, it would be the 1980. There's two versions with Angela Lansbury. There is Len Carew and George Hearn. I do recommend the George Hearn one. The George Hearn one is phenomenal. I mean, George Hearn does a great Sweeney Todd in this. He holds up. Look at that and then compare it to the Johnny Depp version, and you'll see how strong, how potent the voices are in this. And like I said, this is what you have to take it. When you look at the West Side Story, the way it is, how much more they're going to butcher the musical scene. You need new musicals. You need new operas. And you need new classical music. We need a whole new slew of artists. And we can't do it without teaching them in school, the classics. Stop teaching the jukebox music. So tell me, you, my viewers, in the comments below, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I just want to hear from you and what you think. What do you think is the answer to all of this? So let me know in the comments below. And remember also, subscribe, like, and share. Especially share this video. It's very important that you share it. And, pass it on to those of you who like classical and those of you who may have not been treated to classical music. So thank you for tuning in. Note that this is the last, depending on when this airs, this should be the last video in the lineup for this year. Now, understand we will be still putting out videos for the next couple of weeks. But basically, Man with a Show will be returning back on the week of January 10th at our normal Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Saturday pre-flight will be returning back in February. We'll give you a date on that because we're doing some extra production on Saturday pre-flight, putting together some really good stuff for that. But do watch our holiday specials. We have some like Saturday pre-flight holiday specials, best of. We'll have a couple of Man with the Show countdowns and stuff like that. That is coming forward on there. So do check in on that. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, have a happy and safe Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah. Have a happy and safe New Year, my friends, my viewers. Be safe. Let's get into the 2022. Hopefully that it will improve, but we still have a lot of issues and a lot of things to go and a lot to look at ahead in 2022. So thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye there.